Hello and welcome to the TTI Distribution Download, the podcast where we talk about all things happening in the world of electronic components with the specialists of TTI. Today it's another installment of Big Ideas and Little Known Facts about connectors with John Sandy of TTI and Dan Venuto of Molex.
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everybody to TTI and Molex's Big Ideas and Little Known Facts podcast with me, John Sandy from TTI, and Dan Venuto from Molex. Today we're going to be talking to Scotty Holman, Business Development Manager in Molex's Cable Assembly Group, and they're going to be talking about custom cable development and the importance of distribution to the team.
Yes, thank you, John. And we're very fortunate to have Scotty here. We actually have her in studio. We were out and about the Dallas-Fort Worth area visiting the local TTI branch. So really exciting. So can you tell the audience a little bit about you and your background in the industry?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, by the way. I have been with Molex now for going on 2 years, but have been in the cable industry for going on 20 years. So I started my career in fiber cable, spent a good bit of time specifying and selling cable to nuclear power plants, which led me to electrical cables and cable assemblies, and now I'm here at Molex to bring all of that together.
How do you think that experience has helped you coming into Molex?
I have had a great deal of experience really just in sales and customer service. So I think being able to bring that sales background into what I'm doing here at Molex has been a big help.
Hey, Scotty, thanks very much for the background. That's great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Cable Assembly Group and what makes it such a good fit for distribution?
So the Molex Cable Assembly Group brings some value add to our connectors, right? So we already offer a very broad line of Molex electrical connectors, and bringing on cable assemblies is just kind of a value add there. We can expand on your customers' needs.
Speaking about the Cable Assembly Group, do you guys, other than just custom, do you guys offer any standard products?
Yes, absolutely. We have a full line of off-the-shelf products that are stocked at TTI and readily available at any given time.
So, Scotty, following up from that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Molex's capabilities and also manufacturing footprint around the world?
Absolutely. So we have cable assembly plants in Bangalore, India, Dongguan, China, and a fairly new facility, or part of a connector facility, we've opened a cell in our Nogales, Mexico facility so that we now have a North American footprint as well and can service customers out of North America.
And have you seen customer requirement demanding more sort of North America manufactured product versus offshoring, for want of a better word?
Absolutely. With supply chain issues over the last few years, customers are certainly looking towards having a North American option for their supply chain.
How do you make that decision? You know, a customer comes to you with a requirement for a custom cable assembly. How do you decide whether it's going to be built in Nogales, built in Bangalore, or built in China?
So it's typically point of consumption. Sometimes it is customer preference, right? We do have obviously an influx of people that now want North American options. So I use quite a few things that will help me make that decision as to which plant to use, but they all have the same capabilities. And I think that is really important to point out.
I think that's a great point there. One of the things that makes Molex unique is the fact that we do have that global footprint, and we can service the customer in every region, depending on their needs. You know, moving along here, you know, one of the things in our discussions today we talked about is the Molex Cable Creator. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that and how our engineers listening would use that?
Absolutely. So like we talked about, we have a full line of off-the-shelf products, but sometimes our customers look to the off-the-shelf products and maybe need something a little modified there. So we have an electronic version of a cable creator that is on the TTI website. There's a link there that you can get to it, where you can input your connector. It'll help you choose the cable. It'll help you choose the connector for the other end if you need a dual-ended assembly. But you can basically modify an off-the-shelf product. So you could put in the same inputs as one of our off-the-shelf products, but maybe make it a little bit longer or shorter or single-ended or have a different connector on one end than the other. So there are so many different ways that you can use this, but you can also start from scratch to build a new cable. So if you've got a customer with an idea, an engineer that wants to get a place to start, right? A drawing that they can get within 10 or 15 minutes that they could make changes to and provide us a marked up drawing to move forward with their project. So it is really a great tool.
I actually see the solution now that Molex is bringing to the market is really quite innovative, Scotty, from a point of view. If I look at what you're doing with the pre-crimp leads and the off-the-shelf cables and then this custom cable configurator, if I'm thinking of myself as a startup or an engineer in a company that probably doesn't do much manufacturing but does design, typically I'm sitting there, I don't have hand tools, I don't have the ability to play around with the product myself. So you're really giving the engineer a complete solution and then giving them the tools to then give themselves exactly what they want and make a custom design. So how did that sort of progression from like pre-crimp leads, off-the-shelf cable assemblies, the custom cable configurator, how did that all develop inside of Molex? And was that the concept, was to give the customer the complete solution to their problem?
I think initially that the concept was designed to take a simple cable to basically, like I said earlier, modify an off-the-shelf product very quickly, be able to give a quick turnaround of not only a drawing, but also a 3D model. We can provide samples in usually about 7 days because they are pieces and parts of our off-the-shelf products, right? So all of the information is already there. The quote turnaround is typically within 48 hours. It just gives engineers a really good place to start. Even if they're going to make changes to the design, they have a budgetary price pretty quickly. And again, the ideas I keep coming up with as to how to use the cable creator are kind of limitless, but it is definitely a very good tool, especially for startups.
And, just to let the audience know, I trialed that tool today, and at the TTI branch in Fort Worth, we actually went through an example where we put in all the requirements, all the specifications, and we literally had a drawing emailed to us in less than 10 minutes. So that is something very unique out there in the market for engineers and customers that are looking for fast turnaround time, especially when it comes to drawings, 3D models, all of that stuff. So we've talked a lot about, cables, Molex, using Molex connectors. Do you also design cables using some of our competitors' connectors?
Yes, we do. In fact, you don't always have to use the cable configurator. If you have an existing drawing, you can get with our sales team and they will in turn get with the cable team. We can look at those drawings. Those drawings do not have to be completely Molex content. We are happy to look at assemblies and projects that use both Molex, no Molex, all Molex. So we can definitely look at, our competitors' pieces and parts in those cable assembly projects.
So Scotty, just coming back a little bit and looking at TTI and distribution as a whole for the cable assembly group, obviously there's been a lot of NPIs over the recent years. We've talked a little bit about the off-the-shelf cables and the pre-crimp leads. If I'm an engineer, if I'm in one of our joint customers, how does that partnership with the cable team and distribution, how does that play out and how does that make my life easier?
So our long-term relationship with TTI has in the past provided our customers with the ability to get off-the-shelf products very quickly because you stock those. When it comes to projects, we would do the same thing. So we will have an NPI launch. There may be a little bit of time lapse for prototypes because you can't stock the prototypes, obviously. But once we get into mass production, then TTI would step in. That's what they bring to the table, right? You bring the ability to stock to the customer's demands. So as long as we have a projection, then you have those stocking capabilities and they're still getting what they need when they need it as if it were an off-the-shelf product.
That's a great point, actually. I know the journey to getting to a part number is sometimes long and complicated and there's lots involved. For the customers listening on this podcast today, once it's a part number, TTI will stock it as we do everything else, right? We will get it on the shelf and make your lead time days instead of weeks or months. So, yeah, great point. Thanks, Scotty. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Obviously, we had a great meeting today at the Fort Worth branch, as Dan mentioned. So is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners about maybe what's going to happen through the balance of this year inside the cable team or any plans for next year? Is there anything new up and coming?
We are growing as a team. So as we're going into the end of this year, our team is growing. So we're actually adding a few people to our team to support that, to give back-end support for all of the NPI launches that we've had recently and make sure that things move smoothly. But we are also adding up to 10, I believe it is, automotive connectors to our custom cable creator, which are going to make things a whole lot better for customers that are interested in the transportation market. It'll really broaden what you have as an offering out of the custom cable creator.
And is that something we'll promote once they're on there, or will the additional products just be added to it over time and just keep an eye on it?
We will promote it. We actually were hoping to have it done by the fall, but it's a little more inclusive than we thought because it's also involving adding cables, not just connectors that support those connectors. We will have an announcement as soon as that is up and running.
That sounds great. Bringing in those 10 automotive connector series to the creator is definitely going to be of value to TTI's customer base, as transportation is a huge focus for them. So if there's any transportation customers out there listening, stand by for more information. We'll put some information out through Molex and TTI when we get those automotive connectors added.
Any final thoughts, Scotty, for our listeners?
Just looking forward to continued success with TTI and moving forward and winning business together.
So, Scotty, thank you very much. That was great to have you on today, and hopefully our listeners learned a lot. I know I certainly did during the course of today. And join us again for another episode of Big Ideas and Little Known Facts in the world of Molex and TTI connectors.
Thank you, Scotty.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of the TTI Distribution Download. For more information on any of the topics you heard about today, reach out to your nearby TTI branch at 1-800-CALL-TTI or visit us online at tti.com.